2021's Money in the Bank pay-per-view live from Fort Worth, Texas. The first pay-per-view besides WrestleMania to be in front of a live crowd. This one was packed to the brim. Is in the history books. I would have had this review up for you guys last night, but I stayed up too late watching Jaws and I got really tired, and I saw it in 4K. So if you haven't seen that movie in 4K and you have a 4K TV and a 4K player, that 4K release is amazing. So check it out if you're a fan of Jaws. Not being paid to say that. I just being honest with y'all about what I was doing. So the big story of 2021's Money in the Bank is not only the fact that, yes, they are in front of a crowd. And trust me, this is a very newsworthy show. But it was the return of John Cena. We haven't seen John Cena on WWE TV since, I think, the match with Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 36. There has been tons of talk about Cena returning to face Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. And that appears to be the case, as he did pop up after the Roman Reigns post-match promo after the WWE Universal Championship match at the end of the night. But I'm going to talk about that more here in a moment. First, I want to discuss kind of my thoughts on the card. This was a very, very good show, and it seems to be very well received by a lot of the fans. I saw some folks complaining about some of the finishes, but for Money in the Bank, you know, there's been some legendary Money in the Banks, like 2011, of course, with CM Punk and Cena. That was a really, really good show. This show, the guys worked hard. You could tell they were happy to be in front of a crowd. The crowd was red hot throughout the entire show. And when Cena actually appeared at the very end as a surprise, the pop that he got, guys, that was one of the biggest pops of the past, like, 5-6 years. Like, easily. I've seen some people say it was the biggest of all time, and it's like, no, you go back and watch Austin. Go back and watch Steve Austin and, you know, other guys before him. It wasn't of all time, but certainly maybe top 20 WWE has to be. That crowd exploded when he came back, yo. And it's funny, for a guy who, for a big chunk of his career, he was getting booed or getting mixed reactions, the people were so happy to see him. And I think the reason why is because, and this is something that if you've been a long-time wrestling fan, you know this. If not, then you don't know. But when it comes to John Cena, not just John Cena, any WWE superstar, when you've been a talent for X amount of time, when you've been like a top guy for a certain number of time, you eventually cross over into this legendary status where it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get booed. Guys like Ric Flair and like Shawn Michaels, even if they went heel, they would still never get booed in this era because there's so much respect for these guys who have been around for so long. The crowd's just going to love them no matter what. You know what I mean? You just can't boo them. You might get a few boos here and there, maybe some things they say, but overall the crowd will be happy to see them because once you reach legendary status, that's what happens. And that's where Cena's at right now. I do think that Cena's going to get cheered. We'll see. We'll see in the coming weeks, as they are going to be in front of a crowd. Tonight's Raw is going to be from Dallas, Texas, where Cena will open the show with a promo and most likely will build up to that Roman Reigns match. Even though he is on SmackDown, we might see him confront Bobby Lashley first, but I do think that they're going to go with that match instead. So the pre-show kicked off with the Usos against the Mysterios. The Usos beat Rhea and Dominic to become the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. The crowd was so pumped. I mean, everybody came out. It was great. The Mysterios had this really bizarre entrance where they walked through a portal to get to the building. That was unusual. Maybe because there's crowds again. Maybe I missed something, but these guys worked hard. I mean, Dominic is still really green. Rey is a legend, of course, and the Usos are tremendous tag team wrestlers. This, of course, will continue the storyline we have going on with the Usos and Roman Reigns, and it will eventually lead to one of the Usos eventually flipping back, and I think, you know, flipping back babyface, and I think that's going to be planned for down the road, not anytime soon. Right now, it's just about the Usos trying to prove themselves to Roman, and I like this angle. The women's Money in the Bank match opened the show. This would have been Nikki Ash. She won. She beat Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Naomi, Natalya, Tamina, Zelina Vega, and Liv Morgan. About 15-minute match. It was okay. I wouldn't say it was anything special. The girls, seeing a woman or seeing women in ladder matches is still weird to me. It's not even a chauvinistic, sexist thing. It's just like, what happens if that ladder busts them in the jaw and they start bleeding? It's gonna be like, it's gonna look weird. You know what I mean? Like, seeing a girl get busted open is weird to me, maybe because it's so rare to see, but that kind of stuff could happen in these matches. It hasn't happened yet and didn't happen tonight, but it could. They worked hard though. I was actually rooting for Nikki to win because I do like her new character. I've been a fan of Nikki Cross forever, and she did win. And the finish was a tad bit anticlimactic. They had one spot where all the girls were on top of the ladders, and this was actually a perfect show for the crowd to come back and see, because you had spectacle and you also had really good wrestling. Like, there was very few like moments here that I thought were, and we're gonna get to one here in a minute, that I thought were wasted. But the match was pretty good. The match, I can't say anything bad about it. They did work hard, but the men's Money in the Bank later completely outshined this one. Just being honest, it just did. It just better match. So Nikki winning kind of made her look like she outsmarted everybody, which is fine, I guess, if she's a babyface. But it was okay. They did have a segment with the Usos, and Roman Reigns told them, "Hold on to the belt for me." I thought that was pretty funny, man. I love this character. And then we had AJ Styles and Omos against the Viking Raiders for the Raw tag team titles. And this was all done again to kind of give Omos more time in the ring and to kind of show how dominant he is. He pretty much didn't sell almost anything here. A lot of this cool spot they did was involve Omos like throwing AJ Styles on top of people. They had a pretty cool spot where he like did like he flung AJ and did a Hurricane Rana. It's like what I said about WrestleMania. Like at WrestleMania, they almost are going to they have to be careful of almost getting cheered here. And if AJ's going to be doing cool moves off of Omos, that's going to get him cheered. And Omos and AJ won clean, and it just, I think the match is just going to be another, they're going to try to have Omos as this dominant guy with AJ until that runs its course, whenever that is. Who knows? Bobby Lashley and Kofi Kingston. A lot of people did not like this. A lot of people did not like this, man. People said it was a glorified squash. Some of it was. Some of it definitely was. I think Kingston got offense in much more than, he did on Lesnar. This match was 7 minutes, not 7 seconds like that match. Kingston tried to do some things, but, Lashley just kept reversing and dominating, and there was some cool stuff. I mean, the crowd was getting into Kofi, but he never really made that comeback. He started hitting him with like multiple dominators, like the Ron Simmons finisher, the Farouk finisher, and then Lashley starts talking trash to the crowd, then puts the Hurt Locker on Kingston, and Kingston, I guess he tapped out, or no, he didn't tap out. He passed out, is what it looked like. Lashley wins clean. I mean, this match was just done as a match to get Lashley over as dominant. Like, that's what they did here. It was not quite on the level of like a Lesnar squash, what he used to do to like Ricochet and those guys, and Kofi. But it was just done to get Lashley over. And I like Bobby Lashley. I mean, I like him as a heel champion. I really do like him as heel champion. Right now, WWE has 4 heel champions that I think are very, very effective. You've got Bobby Lashley. You've got Roman Reigns. You've got Walter, and you've got Cross. And all these guys, I think, are effective heels. The problem with WWE is they don't know how to book baby faces. And that's been their problem since The Rock. Well, no, since John Cena. And even with John Cena, he got booed a lot. So even then they had issues. But see what I'm saying? Like, this match, if you're a Kofi fan, I don't blame you for getting pissed. I mean, remember when he beat Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania? Like, he got his moment. Now he's just there to bump around for bigger guys. And it really is unfortunate. I wish he had a little bit more offense. You can keep the match short, but I would have liked Kofi to have a little bit more offense. And then Lashley, once he got control of the match, just pretty much owned him. But at the same time, I see what they were going for. Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's title. A lot of fans seem to have hated this finish because Ripley has not gotten a win on Charlotte yet. And honestly, that's okay because the story's not over yet, and eventually she will. right? The crowd actually chanted, "We want Becky" for a segment here. So if they bring back Becky Lynch soon, and that's been the rumor. I mean, there's been rumors of her coming back since Mania because she already gave birth to her and Seth Rollins' kid. So if they bring her back, it would be good to have her wrestle Charlotte because that is the classic feud they were having, right? A couple years ago. So why not go back to that? Plus, they have that history. Ripley and Charlotte had a really, really good match. Ripley had some really impressive power moves. Charlotte had some great finesse moves. We saw some Northern Light suplexes. We saw some vertical suplexes. Like, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte have a lot of chemistry. And there was actually a moment in the match that was really weird. So the crowd chants for Ripley early. Then Charlotte appears to have flicked off the fans, but because Peacock is so pussified, they bleeped out the middle finger. Like they basically, the screen went black for a second, but you still saw the middle finger and the crowd popped. And it was funny because somebody took a screenshot of it and posted all over social media for flicking off the fans. So Peacock tried to censor it and it just didn't work. I really don't like Peacock censorship. At the same time, this was probably Charlotte doing what she wasn't supposed to do because I think that WWE wrestlers know the rules here. That was weird. But the match itself was awesome, dude. Like, Charlotte was doing some insane stuff here, man. Even if you don't like Charlotte, you can't not respect her. There was a spot here where she like slammed Rhea Ripley's face into like the post when she got posterized. That was insane. Like that was, dude, that like, I mean, obviously I know it didn't hurt that much, but it had to have stung a little bit, bro. Have you ever hit your head on a cabinet? And you know how when you hit your head, even if you're only a couple of inches away, it still kind of stings a little bit. Like sometimes when you get hit in the head, you can't help but have it hurt. You know what I mean? Depending on where you get hit. That's the way I felt, and then there was some cool spots with the steel steps and, I like this match a lot. In fact, they used the steel steps a lot for the finish to weaken Rhea Ripley's legs so that when Charlotte applied the figure eight, Ripley had to tap out. This was some good psychology. They wrestled a great match. I mean, dude, if you're a fan of professional wrestling, in-ring storytelling, the show is delivering, especially this match. This match may have been, if it wasn't for the main event, probably told the best story of any match on the card, yo. Like, really, really good match, and the crowd loved it too. Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, there was a problem here, and it wasn't just me. I guess people were having problems with the feed right at the beginning of this match. It was Big E, Kevin Owens, Matt Riddle, Shinsuke Nakamura, Seth Rollins, Ricochet, John Morrison, and Drew McIntyre. There was a problem with the feed flickering, and I was pissed, and so was everybody else. For about maybe 6 minutes, 5, 6 minutes. It felt like 20 minutes, but it wasn't that long. The show just would not work. It was like flickering on and off. There was Peacock problems. I think WWE knew about it because, like, they were slowing down the entrances a bit, it seemed. Also, apparently people who were watching WWE Network in foreign markets were able to see it with no problem. Peacock sucks, bro. Peacock is garbage. I really miss the WWE Network. Peacock is straight trash. The censorship, the ads, now the feed is going out. Like, Peacock, the worst thing that could ever happen for just wrestling fans when it comes to watching this shit is WWE selling the library to Peacock. Obviously, they did what they thought they had to do for money, but it's like, dude, the experience has been taken down several notches, especially on this show, which is supposed to be the big return to crowds, this and the SmackDown show. And I want to talk about that here in a minute. But really, really good Money in the Bank match. This was crazy. Big E was doing these insane spots like spears. He did the spear of the outside. Nakamura busted out an exploder on the ladder. Kevin Owens. Morrison was doing crazy stuff. I mean, everybody just, I was expecting more from Ricochet, honestly, because it's Ricochet. He didn't do as much as I thought he would do, but you also got 8 guys in here. And when you have an 8-man ladder match, not everyone's going to get their shine. There was a moment where Riddle did like RKOs to everyone, and that was a cool moment because, he's teaming with Randy Orton right now. McIntyre did this awesome 3-2-1 and nailed Rollins with the Claymore. It was pretty cool how there was a spot with, there was some good stuff here, yo. There was a spot in the middle of the match with Riddle and Nakamura to where I really want to see those guys wrestle, where they're doing all these crazy, like, martial arts stuff, and then they both double kick each other, and then Drew just double kicks both of them with the Claymore. That was awesome. That was legitimately awesome. They had this crazy spot where Seth Rollins powerbombed Owens to the outside through a ladder bridge. Crowd went nuts for that. Big E, Rollins goes up to get the briefcase, and then Big E catches him in a big ending from the top of the ladder. That was insane. Insane, yo. And then Big E grabs the briefcase, and he is Mr. Money in the Bank. Crowd went nuts for it. Etor absolutely deserves it. Fantastic match. I really hope this leads to eventually Big E and Roman Reigns, if that's where they want to go with this. I really, really hope it does, because Big E deserves a main event match. You know, a main event program, I think, with all the work he's done and how over he is. And this is like the road to him ascending into top status. So then they had a promo with Seth Rollins that pretty much telegraphed the main event. I was watching this show with a friend, and we both called it. We said Seth's going to cost Edge the match, because he blamed Edge. He was saying that he thought that he should have been the Universal title match, but instead it was Edge. And he said that the winner of the Edge and Reigns, he's going to get in line for it, even though we both knew he was going to screw Edge over. Like, we just knew. And that's exactly what happened in the main event. Now, I want to talk about crowds for a minute. Whether you like AEW Dynamite or SmackDown or even this show, you can't help but notice a significant difference in the crowds. And the truth is, guys, even though wrestling needs a lot more, and even though wrestling has not been the best to us for the past couple of years, it just shows that wrestling needs fans, dude. Like, wrestling, this show, this past week, SmackDown, which was a good show, and AEW Dynamite really show that wrestling needs fans, bro. Fans elevate Dynamite to new levels, yo. Not just Dynamite, SmackDown, and WWE, SmackDown, the pay-per-view, Dynamite, and New Japan, and whatever you're watching. Crowds just make these shows, man. And we've missed them for a year and a half, except for WrestleMania. And it's like, I'm glad this pandemic is already, falling apart. Finally, it's not a big deal anymore. I mean, it's still, people are still getting sick, but the numbers have gone down. And I'm glad that things are opening back up again. And wrestling really needs fans, dude. Like, and there's no question about it. Raw was pretty unbearable to watch for a year. It really was. Not just the bad booking, but the lack of crowd. Roman Reigns versus Edge, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Edge got a big pop. They started the match with old school psychology. This was a slow bird match. Edge was out wrestling Roman Reigns and taunting him because he's the more experienced guy. And there was some stuff that was slow. Like, Roman was like doing like a reverse chin lock at one time. I think a waist lock, if I remember correctly. Just, but the good thing was he was talking trash while he was doing it. And it wasn't quite as audible as it was in the empty arena matches, but you could tell he was talking trash, and it was funny. Edge started making a comeback. We saw him bust out the Edge-O-Matic, the Impaler DDT. We saw him bust out, like, all the classic Edge spots. These guys had great, great near falls near the end of the match. I love the spot where Edge went for a spear and got caught in the guillotine. It was a throwback to WrestleMania 24, how Edge lost to The Undertaker. They had the moment where Reigns broke off a piece of the chair to try to put Edge in the crossface. And because what happened was Charles Robinson got knocked out at this point. And then Edge put Reigns in the crossface, and then they had the whole thing about Reigns being scared. The Usos came down to the ramp to make the save for Roman, but Dominic and Rey Mysterio cut him off. And then Seth Rollins nailed Edge Reigns got up, went for the spear, but Edge speared Reigns, which was a great moment. New referee came down, 2 count, great near fall here. Great near fall. They almost had me. Then Rollins came back down. Edge chased Rollins away, turns around, gets caught in the spear. 1, 2, 3. Reigns wins. I think the crowd was into this whole match. I loved it. It's a distraction finish, but it was an effective one because it was double interference from Seth Rollins. After the match, Rollins attacks Edge. So they're like brawling. So there you go. That's your SummerSlam match. Edge versus Seth Rollins. Should be a good match. Should be a really good match. And before that, Rollins and Reigns had this like stare down. So Edge attacked. So Edge and Rollins like brawled to the back. Reigns cuts a promo and says the whole world can acknowledge him. John Cena comes out, played to the crowd, did the "you can't see me" to Roman Reigns' face. Reigns looked annoyed, and the show goes off the air. You need to see this pop, yo. If you didn't see this show, go see this show. This was a tremendous freaking pay-per-view. Probably my favorite WWE pay-per-view of the year besides WrestleMania. Because I don't think they topped on that 3-way main event, bro. That main event and that Cesaro-Seth match was incredible. But, man, what a great professional wrestling pay-per-view. It wasn't that long. It was about 3.5 hours, right? Three and a half, right? Something like that. Maybe 4 if you count the pre-show total and some change. And a very solid show. The crowd was red hot for everything. It won't last, obviously, because we're all happy that the crowds are back. But for this moment on this night, it was great. It was a great time. Anyways, that's it. Thank you for watching. What did you think about SummerSlam? Not SummerSlam, Money in the Bank. What we have for SummerSlam, though, is Edge versus Roman. We have Drew versus Jinder Mahal. I forgot to mention Jinder Mahal attacked Drew McIntyre. We have Seth Rollins Edge. And the rumor is Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley, which I could not give a shit about. But they're doing it. What'd you think? Let me know. We'll talk soon.